In the past, it was a staple of kidnappings for the hostage to hold up a newspaper to prove that they were still alive. The problem with me is that I started reading the newspapers I was holding up, although I'm still, as you can judge by our social media overlords, in captivity. Nevertheless, I'll try my best to get what news I can out to you given the constraints. First up, stories on the domestic news front that I'm tracking. Your briefing begins with a headline. For the first time, America now spends more on interest payments on its debt than on its military. Do we spend more on interest than defense? The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget did a fact check on that question. The answer is yes. During a recent town hall, former United Nations ambassador and current presidential candidate Nikki Haley claimed, for the first time, we're paying more in interest payments than we are on our defense budget. This statement is true. According to the Congressional Budget Office's latest baseline in fiscal year 2024, spending on interest is projected to total $870 billion, while spending on national defense will total $822 billion. This has never been the case before, going back to at least 1940. Net interest spending nearly doubled from fiscal year 2020 to 2023, rising from $345 billion to $659 billion. As a share of the economy, interest grew from 1.6% of GDP in 2020 to 2.4% in 2023. This year, interest is projected to rise to 3.1% of GDP and will exceed its record, 3.2% set in 1991, in 2025. Constitutionally, we weren't supposed to be spending money on any of this, not a full-time global military and not entitlements. None of it existed at the time of the writing of the Constitution. The only outlay that we had was for a navy. As for an army, that was supposed to be a militia that went away during times of peace. There was a guy named Vannevar Bush who was the founder of what we now today call the military-industrial complex, and he was the dean of MIT back in the 20s and 30s, and he lamented the fact that the United States was falling behind after World War I because, as per Constitution, we demilitarized. And he was looking over enviously at Germany, and he said, they're a military state. Why don't we become a military state on a permanent wartime footing, and we can get the government to have a nexus between the government and academia to create weapons of war, and they could give permanent funding to academia. And he liked that. He liked both aspects of that. And, because of all that spending, a thirst for taxes naturally develops, which is why the IRS is being beefed up and engaging in unethical practices, as James O'Keefe's recent undercover sting demonstrates.
So AI has access to everybody's bank account?
What? They see the amount in your bank account, yes.
I can't. Is it constitutional to do that?
I doubt it. They are assholes.
Really?
They are the definition of an asshole. All of them. They have no problem going after the small people, putting people in prison, destroying people's life.
Really?
They have no problem doing that. They said that we were all nice when we started. Now look at us. They are like robots right now. All of them.
I can't wait to give this news to all of my friends.
Yeah, please don't tell them my name.
Do you think that you would have to have a lease place?
No, not with they can audit whoever they want.
That's actually it's a bit invasive, right?
Yeah. In 6 months, they were able to capture $500 million.
Do they have warrants to go into the accounts to find that $500 million?
No.
You said the IRS doesn't control the AI? Who does?
The Department of Justice and the Inspector General.
It's like he went into the army.
When I went to the Criminal Investigation Unit, the guy telling me the first person you shoot, you're gonna remember. But after that, you're gonna shoot 100 people. You're not gonna remember any of them.
Because of our inability to live within our means, because of our desire for guns and butter, as the saying goes, we find ourselves hemorrhaging money as we get caught up in all these entangling alliances abroad, which brings us to international news. Leaked files from a Chinese firm show a vast international hacking effort. A trove of leaked documents from a Chinese state-linked hacking group shows that Beijing's intelligence and military groups are attempting large-scale systematic cyber intrusions against foreign governments, companies, and infrastructure, with hackers of one company claiming to be able to target users of Microsoft, Apple, and Google. The cache, containing more than 570 files, images, and chat logs, offers an unprecedented look inside the operations of one of the firms that Chinese government agencies hire for on-demand, mass data collecting operations. American cybersecurity experts are now going through some of the files, and they're shocked at what they're finding.
All right, China's having its own Edward Snowden moment, and we're watching it go down in real time. This leak is from one of the Chinese government's spyware contractors, and it was on GitHub. It's in Mandarin. Everyone's translating it in real time, rushing. They've just been at it for like 12 hours straight, trying to figure out what's in here. The main reason people are clamoring over this is to try to figure out if there's any capabilities that these Chinese government-backed hackers have that we were unaware of. So here's one where they can take a Twitter account and try to backtrack to a bunch of different information about the person. We got some descriptions of some Trojans that they use for Windows to do keylogging. The Mac version and the iOS version of that Trojan. The iOS version can grab the GPS data, contacts, all that kind of stuff. No jailbreak required. The Android one also kind of interesting. There's capabilities built into the Android malware that they found to dump messages out of WeChat and Momo and all sorts of other popular Chinese messaging apps. Then there was some descriptions of some like hacking devices that they could disguise. Basically looked like battery packs. That these things are actually Wi-Fi hacking devices. This isn't too unfamiliar to us in the world of pen testing. There's lots of leave behind type things, but still cool to see the form factor that they use in like legit spy operations. Anyway, like I said, this is being compared to Snowden-like leaks. So people are still combing through lots of this data. A lot of the things I just showed you were just from a handful of PDFs.
With all due respect to Microsoft, why wouldn't the Chinese want to burglarize America? What with all these open windows? At any rate, we now move on to our News of the Weird segment. Police in Spain arrest a priest for trafficking the erectile dysfunction drug, Viagra. The clergyman's diocese has expressed regret at his alleged actions. As well as Viagra, the priest was found to have other aphrodisiac substances. A priest and his partner have been arrested in the town of Don Benito in the Spanish province of Extremadura as part of an investigation into the illegal sale of Viagra and other powerful aphrodisiacs. The parish priest, well known to the parish of San Sebastian, has been released on charges of trafficking harmful substances. He will appear in court on the 1st and 15th of each month. The arrests were carried out on Monday at the priest's home, which he shares with his partner. And by partner, we mean exactly what you think we mean, unfortunately. I guess he abandoned all hope of spiritual elevation and settled for getting a cheap rise out of people. I guess all common decency is dead, which brings us to our obituary segment. Paul D'Amato, Hollywood actor and Wolverine inspiration, dies at the age of 76. Paul D'Amato, best known for playing Tim Dr. Hook McCracken in hockey comedy Slapshot, died following a diagnosis of progressive supranuclear palsy, a rare brain disease, on Monday in East Brookfield, Massachusetts. He was 76. Slapshot co-star Steve Carlson confirmed the news in a post on X. "Rip Paul D'Amato," he wrote, sending heartfelt condolences to family and fellow friends, actors. D'Amato's other notable credits include Best Picture winner The Deer Hunter, Heaven's Gate, Suspect with Sharon Dennis Quaid, FX, and 6 Ways to Sunday. Additionally, John Byrne, writer and artist of Marvel Comics' X-Men in the 70s and 80s, was said to have based his look for Wolverine on D'Amato and Slapshot. There's probably a certain measure of poetic justice that his colleague released the information of his death on X, given the fact that he was the inspiration for one of the X-Men. At any rate, thanks for stopping by and watching the show, or as I like to call it, that suspicious gap in my resume. See you next time. Consider subscribing to my new podcast, Classic Paranormal. It's a clearinghouse for lost real-life accounts of true ghost stories. It's found on Apple Podcasts. Go there now if you're interested in enigmatic tales, chilling true accounts, chronicles from cases of the past that time has forgotten, but that the modern person who likes relaxing by a campfire swapping ghost stories might appreciate. As I said, the new podcast I'm launching is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and there's a link in the description below on this video.